Hello, and welcome to 60 Decades, where we look back at the last 600 years, picking topics from Christopher Columbus to Donald Trump. Today, we will be focusing on the catastrophic problem of climate change as a result of human activity and the negative impacts that are affecting the world. A major cause of this problem is the amount of greenhouse gases that are released by humans into the atmosphere. This is increasing the harmful greenhouse effect on Earth. The greenhouse effect traps in heat, warming the Earth and disturbing natural climates. This is such a threatening problem because there have been many negative impacts and more are predicted in the future. A brief overview of the deadly impacts of climate change are given in the following BBC News report. As you can see, climate change has many consequences. Climate change will without doubt affect everything on Earth. Alex will now describe some specific places in the world that are affected today.
Thank you, Andrea. There are many places throughout the world that have already begun to suffer the impacts of climate change, especially the Arctic. It is one of the most affected places on Earth. Due to global warming, the ice caps are melting extremely fast. In fact, they have melted more in the last 20 years than they have in the last 10,000 years. The melting doesn't just affect life on the ice caps, but the whole world. With the increase of water, ocean levels are rising extremely fast, causing many problems. For example, the rise in sea level creates erosion as the water moves further inland, and it damages many habitats in the water. This picture was taken on March 10, 2008, by the environmental activist group Greenpeace, showing the comparison of two pictures released on Vedama Glacier back in 1930 and just recently. According to Greenpeace, the Vedama Glacier could completely disappear in a few decades due to global warming. Aside from the Arctic, global warming is predicted to have large effects on other places, such as the tropics, where they have little money and resources to help them. Today, many groups and people have been actively working to try to prevent further global warming and climate change. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change was created in 1988, and its goal was to assess data and identify options that might slow down or stop global warming. It has become the most influential group on the issue of global warming. Al Gore was the vice president in 2005. He is the chairman of the Climate Reality Project, a nonprofit organization devoted to slowing climate crisis. It works to spread the truth and raise awareness about climate change. President Barack Obama is another major advocate for the fight against climate change. This clip is from a 2016 speech addressing the problem.
One of the greatest challenges of our time is climate change. Over the last 7 years, we've made historic investments in clean energy that help private sector companies create tens of thousands of good jobs. And today, clean power from the wind or the sun is actually cheaper in many communities than dirtier conventional power.
Climate change is a current problem today, but it started much earlier in history. Now here's Sara, who will explain a brief history on climate change and global warming.
Thank you, Alex. The planet Earth has a long history of changes that goes back billions of years. However, the climate has changed more in the past 50 years than the last 1,000 years. Human alteration of atmospheric greenhouse gases and dramatic population increases is the cause of this. These drastic changes have all occurred due to the start of industries in the Industrial Revolution and automobiles in the post-World War II population boom. The United States passed the first Clean Air Act in 1963 that set emission standards for vehicles and industries. The people that lived in that historical time period got the knowledge of the dramatic changes Earth's climate has undergone due to the research of scientists. The scientists named Jean-Baptiste Fourier, John Tyndall, Svante Arrhenius, and Charles Keeling all provided this factual research relevant to a general explanation of Earth's climate. Now let's go back to Alex to talk about solutions for climate change.
Thank you, Sara. A possible solution to help climate change while still creating energy is nuclear energy. Nuclear energy is created when the energy inside of an atom is released during nuclear fusion. Nuclear energy uses uranium to power its reactors and water to cool the chambers after the process is done. The main disadvantage to nuclear power is water pollution. After the water is cooled and cleaned, it is put back into the surrounding environment. However, the water is often still too hot and it may harm habitats. Some advantages to nuclear energy is that it is a very reliable source of energy and it is cheap. It can run for 540 days uninterrupted, and it doesn't cost much to transport the uranium. Now let's go back to Sara with another solution to climate change.
Thank you, Alex. The development of carbon sinks is used to drain gas from the atmosphere. John Martin, the world's leading oceanographer in the early 1990s, discovered that adding iron to the surface of an ocean creates tiny marine plants called phytoplankton that absorb carbon faster than any forest. Carbon sinks have advantages of draining carbon from the atmosphere and is affordable. With these advantages comes disadvantages, where they could remove carbon from the air for a short period of time, is hard to control and study, and it could produce a harmful greenhouse gas called nitrous oxide. Now let's go back to Andrea with the best possible solution to climate change.
Thank you, Sara. Out of all the proposed solutions, the use of renewable energy is the best option to stop further climate change. Renewable energy includes energy sources such as wind, solar, and geothermal power. There are minimal disadvantages to renewable energy. These include many facilities are required to produce enough energy, it isn't always reliable because it is weather dependent, and it can be expensive. This is the best solution because the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. The main advantages of renewable energy are that it can provide for the majority of the electric and heating demands, it helps the economy because it employs many people, and it produces little to no waste products, so it doesn't negatively affect the environment. This form of energy is also sustainable and will never run out, so this can be used in generations to come. Despite the few disadvantages, renewable energy is still the best solution to climate change. Many groups of people and companies are supportive of renewable energy. Climate change is a rising problem that must be stopped before it is too late. Big changes must be made in order to stop this problem, but every person can make a difference by reducing the amount of carbon they release into the air. The following brief video clip describes ways you can individually make a difference.
You can reduce your carbon footprint by doing things like plugging leaks in your home insulation, installing a smart thermostat, taking public transit, taking less airplane trips, buying an electric car, and putting solar panels on your roof. A big one is eating less meat. But what's really needed is for you to speak up and exercise your rights as a citizen, because strong, collective action through state and national policies is how we'll make the most impact.
As you can see, we must all contribute to the fight against global warming and climate change. If we do not act now, our future generations will have to face the consequences. Thank you for watching 60 Decades. Join us next week as we explore the global issue of world hunger.